Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and planned for Canada this summer. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at SpencerFernando.com. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be here.
City of Toronto, a horrible mass shooting taking place there over the weekend. We have over a dozen people wounded, a woman and a child killed. And right now I see this national debate taking place on Twitter where people are saying, well, what should we do? Have stiffer gun laws? Do we need more police? What do we need to do to stop this rampant gun violence? It's not just happening in Toronto. It's also in Greater Vancouver.
Well, I mean, Canada already has very strict gun laws, so I don't think any change there would really do anything. I think really there needs to be more police. In some cases, Toronto, they've talked a lot about, they got rid of carding. They wanted to be more politically correct, but there's been an increase in crime and gun violence since they did that. So, I think less political correctness, more police, tougher approach to crime. I think all of those things will help. And the problem with changing gun laws is every time something happens in an urban area and they change the gun laws and they end up basically just putting more restrictions on, people who are following the laws already, people in rural Canada, law-abiding gun owners, and it doesn't do anything except put more regulations on them and it doesn't reduce crime at all. So I don't think changing gun laws is a solution.
So we need more people on the street to look after these people.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be, I think, more police. A lot of people on the news were talking yesterday about how even with more police out, the Toronto police stepped up patrols, they still feel like there's not enough. So I think that's a big issue is that, some of these cities are growing very quickly and the number of police hasn't kept up.
Well, I look at the lower mainland. Vancouver, I think, has about 1,400 police officers. Surrey, which is nearly as big as Vancouver population-wise, has 700 officers. Is it any wonder that that city sees more shootings?
Oh, exactly. And, I think a big problem is something that's happened in politics throughout many levels is spending just gets shifted towards, bureaucrats and, certain things like infrastructure, public safety, police really gets left behind. So I think government needs to be more efficient and needs to really refocus on some of the basic things it's supposed to be doing. Chief among them is keeping people safe.
Well, what do you think of outgoing Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson Gregor Robertson added 400 more people making over $100,000 a year to the city payroll. Should those people have been police officers?
I think so. And, in many cases, we see that in many cities where a whole bunch of new people get hired, a lot of new spending, but it's not actually in areas where it helps the public. So, I think a lot of cities could afford to cut much of their bureaucracy and, shift that towards people like police who are actually keeping people safe. It's all about priorities. The government never has an unlimited amount of money, so they need to pick and choose where they spend it. And spending it on public safety as opposed to more bureaucrats would make sense.
And you also ask people, how many hanging plants does a city need when you have shootings taking place all over the place?
Yeah. Well, something like that in Winnipeg. Winnipeg throws a lot of crime, and we have a brown water problem where, people turn on the tap and the water's brown, and that's happened in many parts of the city. And then they spent $10 million on something they called a diversity garden in Assiniboine Park, the big park in the city. So how do you have $10 million to spend on a diversity garden when you have a crime problem and when you have basic things like delivering clean water to people isn't being done? So again, a lot of these politicians, they want a nice photo op and they want to get all this attention, but the basic things of running the city, they seem to ignore.
There are no ribbon cuttings when you hire more police officers.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of it is political correctness. I mean, there's definitely an angle here to the guy who did the shooting in Toronto that looks like it could be related to Islamist terrorism. Joe Warmington reported that some sources have said they're looking into a connection he had to an extremist website, whether he visited the site, something like that, and time he had spent overseas. So, I think Justin Trudeau obviously doesn't want to talk about that because he likes to pretend radical Islam doesn't even exist, but I think that's something that needs to be focused on as well.
Why do you think the Toronto police have been so reluctant to release details? It's up to investigative reporters like yourself to dig this stuff out.
Yeah, I think political correctness is a big reason behind a lot of it. It's interesting how they're very quick to release names, photos in some situations, and others, when it in some cases involve what could be Islamist terrorism, they're not so willing to do that. So and there's also a feeling where they're trying to craft the narrative. I mean, it was interesting that the statement written by the family of Faisal Hussein was released exactly when the name was released to the media, so it's almost like the police coordinated with the family, which, I mean, it's a bit odd because about not long after the attack, they were saying that he was a 29-year-old man. So they obviously knew where he lived, they knew how old he was, so they obviously had his name. So the fact that they would wait and then they would come out at the exact same time as the statement is interesting, to say the least.
Have witnesses said anything about him saying anything while the shooting was taking place?
I've read some reports of just people saying that he was yelling something. I don't think I've seen anywhere where it was said exactly what he was yelling. In past cases, I think people know what it would be that he could have been saying, but that hasn't been confirmed by anyone yet.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp. Inc., MGI on the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected high-grade gold, including 16.9 meters of 13.58 grams and 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program is planned to further evaluate previously identified subsurface high-grade gold mineralization. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, illegal border crossings have dropped a bit in Manitoba and Quebec, but is that still a big problem, and are people in Winnipeg and south of Winnipeg still really concerned?
Well, yeah, it's still an issue, and I think it's, they've dropped from levels that were excessively high compared to the past, so it's a slight decrease from a massive increase, so it's still an issue. And, I think in Manitoba, it's, especially for people in border towns, and there's just the constant security concerns they have. That's an issue. But, more than that is the fact that, it's still an added cost. The government is basically, people are coming into Canada legally, and then Canadian taxpayers are being forced to cover the cost of a lot of services for people. And meanwhile, people who are following the actual border laws are waiting a long time to get into the country. So I think the Trudeau government clearly has no plan to deal with it. They have no even willingness to deal with it. I guess they either don't see it as a problem or they feel there's more political points in not addressing it. But it doesn't seem like it's going to end anytime soon.
Was Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, right to say to Ottawa, look, this is too expensive for us. We need more money. We need more help?
Yeah, it's a fair point to make. It's not Ontario. It's not him and his government who opened up the borders and said everyone should come in. Trudeau did that, so he should be responsible for it. Of course, the long-term problem is that, all the money is taken from, the same place. As they say, there's only one taxpayer, right? So it might not be the Ontario government paying for it, but it's still Canadian taxpayers paying for it. And at some point, the problem itself has to be solved because it still means less money for the people who are actually paying the bills.
Opposition to Trudeau's plan to impose carbon taxes across the nation seems to be increasing. Do carbon taxes actually do anything positive? Because I've heard the first day Kilauea erupted it wiped out all the carbon tax credits for the last 10 years.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, I think the carbon tax is just the latest excuse by politicians to take more people's money. It's always, there's always a reason they have for it, but it always ends up just being that a bunch more money is sent into general revenue. What's so interesting is things like the carbon tax. The problem is it actually does real damage because it hurts the economy, pushes away investment, takes money out of people's pockets when it doesn't do anything for the environment. And what's so interesting is that I think it was about a year ago, the U.S. Quit the Paris Climate Accord, and they've done a look at emissions in major countries. And the U.S. is one of the only countries where emissions went down. They had the biggest emissions reductions in the world in 2017, whereas in Canada emissions went up by about 20 billion, and in China and India they surged dramatically. So, they sign all these agreements, they put all these taxes on, but lo and behold, it's the U.S. that do better than most other countries, where they're not putting big taxes on people, where they're not signing things like the Paris Climate Agreement. So it's interesting, Countries like to talk, Trudeau likes to talk, Catherine McKenna likes to talk, but they don't actually get any results.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after the break.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain's Brunswick property is located in the Rideout Shear Zone in Ontario, with grab samples running as high as 32 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program to test numerous targets located by recent groundwork is planned for early 2018. Please visit our website at rmroyalty.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. Spencer, the federal government can't find a buyer for the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Are you surprised?
No, not at all. Who would want to buy it at that point? The government says they have the authority to get it built, but then they really don't do anything to get the BC NDP to let it get built. It looks like it's going to be held up in the courts. The government's not willing to use leverage. It's interesting. When Saskatchewan said they were opposed to the carbon tax and weren't going to do it, the Trudeau government threatened, I think, to take about $700 million away. They've threatened similar things against Ontario. But when BC was really, the BC NDP basically illegally opposing the pipeline, the Trudeau government still gave them $4.5 billion in infrastructure funding. So the areas of leverage they could have used, they didn't use. The Trudeau's kind of tried to pander, make it look like he supports pipelines, while also pandering to, radical left groups. And so investors look at that and say, well, there's no guarantee that the federal government's going to actually get it done, so why take the risk?
Mexico and U.S. are considering separate NAFTA deals without Canada. What does that say about Canada and the whole situation?
Well, I think if that happens, it would represent one of the biggest trade reversals in history and really would, I think, be an indictment of the approach by the Trudeau government. Whatever people say about Trump being unpredictable. About a year ago and throughout his whole campaign, it was very clear that he was focused on Mexico. That was the big problem. And about a year ago, the states had been saying, Canada, let's get a deal done quickly. And the U.S. wanted to move on to dealing with a huge trade deficit with Mexico. At the time, then Trudeau said, no bilateral deals. It has to be trilateral. We stand in solidarity with Mexico. And the government said that numerous times. Solidarity with Mexico. We stand with them. We're not going to let the U.S. split us up. And then Mexico now is willing to go do a deal with just the U.S. So it looks like Mexico played us. Looks like the U.S. played Trudeau. It would be very bad for our country. One report I read talked about how there could even be tariffs put on cars coming from Canada, but the U.S. would exempt Mexico from those tariffs. So that'd be devastating for our economy. And the idea that it's gotten to this point is really just absurd.
Some people are of the opinion that former Prime Minister Stephen Harper is helping the U.S. in its battle against Canada. Is that true?
No, I haven't seen any evidence of that. I think, if anything, Harper could be helpful in this case because he's much more rational and reasonable than Trudeau when it comes to these issues. I mean, the Trudeau Liberals, they've tried to, I think, score too many political points on an issue that's very important to the economy. They brought up a bunch of things like, gender, feminism, the environment. They made a big deal of that with NAFTA, knowing obviously that that's not something the Trump administration is going to be interested in dealing with within those negotiations. So they wanted to score some political points. It didn't work out. Mexico seems like they've been much more intelligent about dealing with it, and Mexico might get a deal while we're left out. And the problem with that is that the U.S. will use that as leverage against Canada, because they'll say, look, we've got to deal with Mexico, so that's all good. And if you guys want any scraps, then you're going to have to give in to our demands. So sure, the government would have played it badly.
Spencer, thank you so much for chatting with us.
You're welcome.
My guest has been investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at spencerfernando.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. If you have any questions for the show or our guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.